Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Susan Ewa, the platform where we speak truth to power. Um, this is of Buckingham Palace back in 2021. The exact date. So I want to try and give you context to make sure you understand. On the Wednesday, 2nd of June 2021, 2 p.m., this was covered by um, the Guardian newspaper. Many of us may not be aware. In particularly those of us, and the reason I'm doing this is I need you to understand when you are following this religion of Christianity avidly, particularly those of us who are in Nigeria, we need to understand there is a lot of sinister things that are going on. And when you think, oh, you're supporting something, or they're really, you know, looking out for your interests, this kind of thing really makes you know that it isn't the case. So Buckingham Palace banned ethnic minorities from office roles, papers reveal. Now let's go deeper into that news. So you can see already now. So exclusive documents also shed light on the Queen's ongoing exemption from race and sex discrimination laws. That was when she was alive. So she's exempt from race and sex discrimination laws. Why? Why? No, no, really. Why? Why? So she's got two heads or what? Let me just check. Has she got two heads? Has the Fourier family, have any of them got two heads? So what the laws that apply to you and I don't apply to them, so they can do whatever. You see it there. They're exempt. So the Queen's courtiers banned colored immigrants or foreigners from serving in clerical roles in the royal household until at least the late 1960s, according to newly discovered documents that will reignite the debate over the British royal family and race. There you go. I keep telling you. The documents also shed light on how Buckingham Palace negotiated controversial clauses that remain in place to this day, exempting the Queen and her household from laws that prevent race and sex discrimination. Let's read on. The papers were discovered at the National Archives as part of the Guardian's ongoing investigation into the royal family's use of an arcane parliamentary procedure known as Queen's Consent to secretly influence the content of British laws. They reveal how in 1968, the Queen's chief financial manager informed civil servants that it was not, in fact, the practice to appoint colored immigrants or foreigners to clerical roles in the royal household, although they were permitted to work as domestic servants. Not that long ago, really, the 60s. Mhm. It is unclear when the practice ended. Buckingham Palace refused to answer questions about the ban and when it was revoked. It said its records showed the people from ethnic minority backgrounds being employed in the 1990s. It added that before that decade, it did not keep records on racial backgrounds of employees. Make of that what you will. In the 1960s, government ministers sought to introduce laws that would make it illegal to refuse to employ an individual on the grounds of their race or ethnicity. The Queen has remained personally exempted from those equality laws for more than 4 decades. The exemption has made it impossible for women or people from ethnic minorities working for her household to complain to the courts if they believe they have been discriminated against. You guys don't understand, do you? Oh man. Oh man. In a statement, The Buckingham Palace did not dispute the Queen had been exempted from the laws, adding that it had a separate process for hearing complaints related to discrimination. The palace did not respond when asked what the process consists of. The exemption from the law was brought into force in the 1970s when politicians implemented a series of racial and sexual equality laws to eradicate discrimination. The official documents reveal how government officials in the 1970s coordinated with Elizabeth Windsor's advisors on the wording of the laws. The documents are likely to refocus attention on the royal family's historical and current relationship with race. Much of the family's history is inextricably linked with the British Empire, which subjugated people around the world. Some members of the royal family have also been criticized for their past. In March, the Duchess of Sussex, the family's first mixed race member, said she had suicidal thoughts during her time in the royal family and alleged that a member of the family had expressed concerns about the child's skin color. The allegations compelled her brother in law, Prince William, to declare that the royal family was very much not racist. Okay. Queen's consent. Some of the documents uncovered by the Guardian relate to the Queen use of the Queen's consent, an obscure parliamentary mechanism through which the monarch grants parliament permission to debate laws that affect her and her private interests. Buckingham Palace says the process is a mere formality despite compelling evidence that the Queen has repeatedly used the power to secretly lobby ministers to amend legislation she does not like. This was the late Queen in her lifetime. Keep in mind, the newly discovered documents reveal how the Queen's consent procedure was used to secretly influence the formation of the draft race relations legislation. In 1968, the then Home Secretary James Callaghan and civil servants at the Home Office appear to have believed that they should not request Queen's consent for Parliament to debate the race relations bill until her advisors were satisfied it could not be enforced against her in the courts. Man. At the time, Callaghan wanted to expand UK's racial discrimination laws, which only prohibited discrimination in public places, so that they also prevented racism in employment or services such as housing. James Callaghan pictured with Queen in 1977, welcoming the then French President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing to Windsor Castle. A key proposal of the bill was the Race Relations Board, which would act as an ombudsman for discrimination complaints and could bring court proceedings against individuals or companies that maintained racist practices. Keep in mind, they said the Queen was exempt for such. That's your royal family. In February 1968, the Home Office civil servant T.G. Weller summarized the progress of discussions with Lord Tyrone, the keeper of the Privy Purse, who was responsible for managing the Queen's finances and other courtiers. Tyrone, he wrote, had informed them Buckingham Palace was prepared to comply with the proposed law, but only if it enjoyed similar exemptions to those provided by the diplomatic service, which would reject job applicants who had been resident in UK for less than 5 years. According to Weller, Tryon considered staff in the Queen's household to fall into one of three types of roles. A. Senior posts, which were not filled by advertising or by any overt system of appointment, and which would presumably be accepted outside the scope of the bill. B. Clerical and other office posts, to which it was not, in fact, the practice to appoint colored immigrants or foreigners. And C. Ordinary domestic posts, for which colored applicants were freely considered, but which would in any event be covered by the proposed general exemption for domestic employment. They were particularly concerned, Wheeler wrote, that if the proposed legislation applied to the Queen's household, it would, for the first time, make it legally possible to criticize the household. Many people do so already, but this has to be accepted and is on a different footing from a statutory position. Anyway, so those are the documents that you're looking at. Race relations documents. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. See? I mean, these are documents, that are damning. So let me see. I'm actually going to do this. 1 second, please. By March, Buckingham Palace was satisfied with the proposed law. A Home Office official noted that the courtiers agreed that the way was open now for the Secretary of the State to seek Queen's consent to place her interests at the disposal of the Parliament for the purpose of the bill. The phrasing of the document is highly significant because it suggests that the Callahan and Home Office officials believed it might not be possible to obtain the Queen's consent for a Parliament to debate the racial equality law unless the monarch was assured of her exemption. As a result of this exemption, the Race Relations Board, that was given the task of investigating racial discrimination, would send any complaint from the Queen's staff to the Home Secretary rather than the courts. In the 1970s, the government brought in 3 laws to counter the racial and sexual discrimination in the workplace. Complainants in general were empowered to take their cases directly to the courts. But staff in the royal household were specifically prevented from doing so, although the wording of the ban was sufficiently vague that public might not have realized the monarch staff had been exempted. A civil servant noted that the exemption in the 1975 Sex Discrimination Act had been acceptable to the palace, largely because it did not explicitly single out persons employed by Her Majesty in her personal capacity for special exception, while still removing them from its scope. Let's ruminate on that for a few minutes. The royal family that you bow to made laws to exempt themselves from the laws on discrimination. What do you think? And that's the late Queen. Under the late Queen. All this happened under the late Queen. This report was back in 2021. Under the late Queen. There you go. There she is. Grandson. There. What are your thoughts? Let's hear from you. You're watching Cisne Why, the platform where we speak truth to power. Thank you and bye for now. Please do share. Don't forget, subscribe. Hit the notification button. Give us thumbs up. Help us reach more people. Thank you so very much. You have been watching Cisne Why, the platform where we speak truth to power. Thank you and bye for now.